For this channel, $1,000,000 Made Easy, we love to run numbers for people. If you want me to run numbers for you, just give me your beginning balance, your monthly contribution, and if you want to increase that, then we'll go ahead and run it. And we also, in the withdrawal stage, if you can give me your Social Security and your pension amounts, the amount in the start year, we'll go ahead and run the numbers. I want to thank you for watching this channel, and please consider subscribing, sharing, and liking these videos. Let's get into this one. This is the request. He says, what an awesome channel. I would love if you would have the opportunity to run my numbers. I'm 52 and I plan to retire at age 58 with a company pension of $3,500. I am a Canadian and I receive $850 of Canadian pension plan, yuck, at age 60. And he says, I currently contribute $3,500 to the S&P 500 index funds. I would like to have $10,000 a month to live on. He says use a 2.8% COLA. I would like to use 90% equities and 10% cash in retirement for my investments. Currently at 100% equities to retirement, which is about $800,000. Now, believe it or not, I can answer almost all these questions just from the spreadsheets we're going to use today, because that's what I do on this channel. We run numbers for people. So I want to show him where we're at here. He says he currently has 800,000. Says he can put 30, let's see, 3,500 a month to the S&P 500. So we pick beginning balance, and this is the monthly contribution he's going to make. This is the second criteria I need from you to run numbers, 3,500, the beginning balance, this right here. Let's see here. He wants to know where he might be. Well, first of all, we got to figure out how much he's going to have in 6 years. Well, that's difficult because in the next 6 years we could have years like, let's see here if I can find it right here. We could have 6 years like the Depression years. We could have 6 years like the year 2000 where we're down three of those 6 years. We could have some really good years. We could have years like 1973 and 74 and then down again. So I don't know which ones to take. So here's my dilemma in running the numbers. I'm going to go ahead and do this and show you. He's 52, so we're going to be looking at the 58, the 6-year column. So I'm going to update this. It calculates it for every single year for the last 100 years. And I want you to look at the 6-year column here specifically. Like I said, he's 52 and he wants to start withdrawing at age 58. He wants to retire, which is 6 years from now. Well, there's a time period you could actually put in by that. With these numbers he's given me, he would have put in 1,052,000. But there's actually a time period, like if we had returns like 1929, you only have $698,000 after 6 years, actually a loss from what you put in, quite a bit of a loss. In fact, you go down through here around the Depression years, people say, well, that's kind of rare. Well, let's go down here a little bit farther and see if we see any more whites. Most of the time he'd be just fine. Looks like if he had 1969 type numbers, you'd be less than what you put in. And it looks like the rest of the time you're pretty much okay. Yeah, okay, but that's what we do on this channel. I just want to let him know that 93% of the time he'd have $1 million, 71% of the time he'd have 1.5 million, and 40% he'd have 2 million. Again, 6 years is such a short period of time. I hesitate to run that. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the liberty of saying that yes, he's going to have $1 million. Let me show you one other way. What if he just put that 3,500 into a CD or something for the next 6 years and just got 4% interest on it? I'm going to show you what he might have then. We're going to set the average here to 4% right here. After 6 years, you'd have 1,290,000. So if he didn't do anything else, just stuck it in a CD, maybe he only got 3%. Let's do that one. So I can either run it at $1 million or I can run it at, let me see if this, let's see, I got to reset this real quick here. 3%, he would have 1.226 million. So the chances are he's going to have over $1 million by 93% of the time. 71% of the time, he had 1.5 million. So I'm not sure what number to use here. I could use the million. I could use the 1.2 million. That's always a dilemma when we're going from the accumulation stage to the withdrawal stage. So what I'm going to do is actually use this 1.22 million. If he would just put that 3,500 into a CD or some kind of account paying 3% for the next 6 years, you have 1.2 million. It looks like he would have that. Let me change this real quick. See how many times, if we did stay in the S&P in the next 6 years, he'd have 85% of the time at 1.2 million. So hopefully you understand what I'm doing here. So I'm going to take this 1.2 million and we're going to go over here and get to the withdrawal stage. This was the accumulation stage since he still has 6 years to go. Now I'm going to take this 1.2 million and we're going to plug it in here. That's the beginning balance now, 1.2 million. So that's where projecting ahead what he might have by the age 58. He says he's going to get a company pension right off the bat of 30, let's see, 3,500. So I'm going to go ahead and do that because right now, first of all, he wants 10,000 a month. Let's go ahead and see what that would be. That's going to be a 10% withdrawal rate, which is way above the 4% that's recommended, but we haven't taken into account his pension. What happened when we take into account his pension, instead of 10,000 a month, oh, by the way, he also has a 3% COLA, so this 10,000 is going up by 3% a year, be 120,000 going up, but we haven't taken into account his pension. His pension in the very first year, now instead of 10,000 a month, he only needs 6,500 a month. Another thing, he said he wants to do a 90-10 split. In other words, 90% staying in the S&P 500 because you want to have as much in there as possible. When the market comes back and goes up, you want to benefit from that. But you do want to have some over in a cash reserve account. So when the market goes down, you're taking this, for example, the 78,000 out of here instead of the market. Because if that's already going down, you don't want to sell low. Another criteria, he said, in the third year when he's 60, which this is looking at the 58 and 59, but when he's 60, he's going to get $850 a month also. So in other words, the first, after 3 years, instead of needing, let's see if I'm doing this right. Yeah, the third year, instead of needing $66.95 a month, he'll need $850 less of that because he's getting that from his Canadian pension plan. So we want to update this for every single year, giving these numbers. He is down to a 6.5% withdrawal rate, actually lower than that after the third year. So let's see how this works out in the numbers, which is what we want me to run. So it looks like 9% of the time he would run into problems in the last 100 years. This is the actual graph. The graph is what we've seen over and over again in this channel. Every time we run this, the depression years, but also the year around the 2000, because that was a bad decade right here. But most every other scenario, he's going to be in great shape. You can see the kind of numbers. This is the $5 million mark. This is the $10 million mark. But that's what we do on this channel. We love to run numbers for people. In this case, I was kind of guessing what he might have after 6 years. Like I said, if you just put in a 3% CD for the next 6 years, you'd have 1.2 million on that 800,000. Make sure I'm doing that right here. Something doesn't look right there, but okay, 3%. Yeah, 1.226 million. Looks like I'm looking at that right. Okay, so he'd have 1.2 million if he just put it in a CD. If he stuck with leaving it in the S&P 500, he'd have 1.2 million 85% of the time and a million 93% of the time. It's just a few years around the depression years that he wouldn't have as much as he even put in right here. He put in 1,052 and he wouldn't even have that amount in those years. Hopefully this makes sense. But that's what we do on this channel. We run numbers for people. I just love I love doing it. I love people getting excited to see what their numbers might show. But again, what could he do differently to maybe lower this percentage chance of failing, this 9%? What if we just did, I like to do this too. Let's do 9,000 a month. Let's update this and see if this 9% changes so much. Again, the problem is the depression years. They were so problematic. I just want to see if this 9% goes down much. Recalculating. Yeah, it's down to 2%. Look at that. Just going from 10,000 down to 9,000. Given that you have 1.2 million, which is again an estimate of what he might have in 6 years, using his pensions and his Canadian pension plan, this is what he can look forward to. And only 2% of the time in the last 100 years would he have any kind of problem. That was just during the depression years. Even the year 2000 looks like you're okay. Let me go ahead and choose 2000 here real quick just to show you numbers for that. Right here, 3 down years they call sequence of returns risk. If you first start out and you have some down years, that can be really problematic. It looks like, yeah, you didn't run out of money in 20 years, but you did in 21 years right here, because the 21st year, you'd only have 38,000 left if we had returns like the year 2000. If you go to 2001, Now you got 705,000. Just that 1 year because you had 3 down years in a row, which knocked these numbers down so much. If we change the asset allocation to 80/20, see if that changes much. Right now we have 38,000 left after 20 years if we have a market like this. But if we do an 80/20 split, does that help any? Now we got 224,000. So just going from a 10% uh, asset allocation to 20% made it look a lot better. Only having 38,000 there, 80/20 split, 224,000, a 70/30 split, 264,000, a 60/40 split, 176. So it looks like the 80/20 was probably about the best, 80/20 and 7/30, a little bit better than the 90/10. Hopefully this makes sense. I know I threw a lot of numbers at you, but we have to kind of assume a certain beginning balance once he reaches retirement, which is we saw that 93% of the time he'd have this kind of money. So that's why I ran it at $1.2 million. If he comes back in 6 years, knows exactly how much he has, then we can go ahead and run these numbers again and go ahead and run it at 10,000 and see what he might have. But that's what we do on this channel. We run numbers for people. Please consider subscribing. Please share this. Let people know there's a channel out there that will run numbers for them. And I just love doing it. Again, if you want me to run numbers for you, in the comment section of any of these videos, give me your beginning balance, your monthly contribution, whether you want to increase that, and it's best if we have at least 20 or 25 years. 30 and 35 leads to mind-boggling numbers, but in this case, he's 52, and you want to know where he might be at 58. And then we also do the withdrawal stage. Withdrawal stage, just make sure you give me your Social Security and pension, your amount in the start year, and we'll run numbers like we did in this video. But hopefully I didn't talk too fast and show you too much, but I just love running numbers for people. Thanks so much for watching.